All right, everyone, we are going to do our second transformation, which is going to be starting at the original figure, but this time we are going to rotate the figure 180 degrees counterclockwise. So remember, if you're starting at 12, you're going the opposite way that the hands of a clock would go. So 180 degrees counterclockwise about the center of origin. Again, the center of origin is where it is 0 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis. So right there in the center. Now, to speed things up a little bit, I already traced my figure onto tracing paper. Okay, so there's my figure. And I labeled the vertexes with their letters, A, B, C, and D. That is very important because you're going to need those letters after you do your rotation. Now, I'm doing 180 degrees. So again, around from the center, 180 degrees about the center of origin. So I could, again, mark one of my vertexes to the center of origin and make sure that that should form a straight line once I do my rotation. But I also know that a 180 degree is exactly opposite of where the other figure should be. So 180 degrees is almost like a reflection. But just to show us again, I will use that same line and I will attach it at D as I used that last time. And when I do my 180 degree counterclockwise rotation, that should form a straight line. Okay, so I'm going to put my ruler down. I'm going to make sure that my pencil, again, is on the center of origin. I have to put enough pressure but that I can hold it there, but also not too much pressure because you still want to be able to allow your tracing paper to move. Remember, counterclockwise, that's important. So I'm moving it this way. That turn would be 90-degree turn, but I need 180, so I'm going to keep going, and I have a 180-degree turn. Now, I think that's about right. One thing that we should pay attention to, and I've probably moved my pencil, again, it's hard to do it on the chart paper here, but those two lines should connect to make a straight line, and it looks pretty good to me. Again, there's going to be a little bit of movement here using the wall, but that should form a straight line. That's my 180 degrees, so I know I'm pretty close. And also, my lines should match. So if I go down on the chart paper, the C and D are on the same line, okay? And then same over here. These should match on the same line because it's 180 degrees. So now what I want to do again is I should probably use the grid here and label my vertexes on here. So I went 3 and I went down to -6. So this is going to be 3, -6. This one is going to be over -4 and -6. So I'm going to go over, sorry, let's see, -3. I made a mistake. -3 and -6, sorry. -3, -6. Go down to A. A is going to be over 3 and down to -10. So 3, -10. And lastly, B is going to be over at -3 and down to 10. Remember we talked before about the pattern, and we remembered that if it's in this quadrant, both numbers are going to be negative. If it's on this quadrant, the X is going to be positive, but the Y is going to be negative. So we talked about that before. So now what I can do is I could lift my paper. Now, sometimes, I'm going to show you a little trick. I do go ahead and I try to cheat by going underneath the paper and kind of putting a little mark. So then I don't have to, it's a little bit easier. I'm still going to double check when I'm drawing it, but I try to leave a little mark. Or if you go through really hard, it sometimes comes through a little bit underneath. Okay, and you can see that one didn't work so well. It might not work so well with parchment paper. But I'm going to put a small little mark, and then I'm going to take it off. And I'm obviously going to double check and make sure that C was at 3, 6, 3, -6, and that's about where my mark was there. A is at 3, -10, so 3, -10, and I'm going to put that there. D was at -3, -6. So I'll put that there. And B was at -3, -10. So -3 down to -10, okay? Now I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to attach those again to make that shape that we had before. And this is my rotation of 180 degrees counterclockwise about the center of origin. Now I'm going to need to label my vertexes. And if you remember, we started with it like this, okay? But we rotated it around here and it's now upside down. So my A and B are not going to be in the same area. So this coordinate is actually C. This is where your parchment paper comes in handy. And that bottom one is actually the A now because we've turned it. This is actually D. And this one is actually D. Okay? And if I wanted to get full level on this, when I was handing it in, I'm going to go and I'm going to put my coordinates there again. Okay? Because we want to be able to show someone that we know how to plot the coordinates properly, and that if someone wanted to double check, they could double check our coordinates. And the way that we write coordinates again, remember, is the number, comma, and then your second number with brackets on it. That should be D. I don't like how I did that, but I'll fix it after. Okay, the last one that we're going to do is a little bit different. Usually we would go back to the figure and we would rotate the figure, but I wanted to use as much space on this one paper since we're doing this virtually. And, you know, a lot of you don't have lots of paper at home, lots of tracing paper. So we're trying to make best use of space. So we're going to actually use this figure, okay? This figure right here. And we're going to use this for our next turn. We're not going to go back to the original. And what I wanted you to do with this figure is we're going to rotate the double prime. Oops, that's what I forgot to do here. This is now double prime. This was single prime. And these are double prime. And to do double prime, we put two little quotation marks, not quotation marks, apostrophes beside the letter. Okay, that means double prime. So we're going to use the double prime image. So this one, and we marked it with a star. We did that in class. So I put that in brackets, marked with a star. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. So again, clockwise is going on the hands of a clock, about the turning point at -3, -3. What? What is that? We didn't do that before. We always did the center of origin. Now, remember, I told you, find the part on the grid paper, on the Cartesian plane, that is at -3, -3. So the first -3 is your x-axis. The second -3 is your y-axis. So our x-axis runs horizontal. So we're going to go over to the -3. And then we're going to go down -3 on the y-axis. So that would be right here. And that, at that point, we're going to put a little dot. That is what we call the turning point. Okay? So I'm going to use what I drew on this paper. Okay, right here. We already have this figure drawn. So I'm going to use it again. And I'm going to match it up. The letters are in the right place. And now it says I'm going to turn from this point. So what I need to do now is I'm going to take my ruler, okay, and I'm going to make one of the points attached to my turning point again. So I'll just do this one. See, you can pick any one again. Remember? Any one of your vertexes. Okay, so now I have my line connecting one of my vertexes to the turning point. I'm not going to put my pencil back in the center of origin. I'm using my turning point at 3, 3. And I remember we're going 90 degrees clockwise. So now what I need to do is put my pencil down on the new turning point, and I'm going to have enough pressure so that I can turn. I'm going 90 degrees, okay, clockwise. So I'm turning this 90 degrees. Now remember that that line that we drew, I'm going to go back and show you, was this line, okay? That line should be, oops, I'm confusing myself for a minute. which is okay. Remember that sometimes it's okay to make that mistake. That line, oh, we didn't draw our original line. That's where the mistake was, I think. We didn't draw our line from that point to one of the vertexes on this paper. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm going to still do this, but I needed to connect that onto there on the original paper so that I have one of my lines, and I didn't do that. So we need to do it on the original and on the tracing paper, and that's where Mrs. Dobich made her mistake. This is a new way for me to, this is a new video that I saw this year. I've never taught it this way before, and I find it really helpful, but sometimes you forget the steps as well as you go along. So remember, any vertex, we chose C, attach it to your turning point. When you trace your image, you draw the image on the tracing paper, but then you also draw your line from the vertex to the turning point. Now we can keep it here. And I'm going to put a little, since there's another line on this, I'm just going to put a little X on the line that I'm watching. Okay. I'm watching that line and I'm turning 90 degrees. Okay. Clockwise. And I want this line with a little X on it and that line underneath to make a 90-degree angle. And that does look pretty close to a 90-degree. It looks square. Okay, it looks like the corner of a wall or a corner of a door frame right there, 90 degrees. And it should be on, these vertexes should be on a line on my graph paper, which they are. Okay, so I think we're good. I think I see that 90-degree angle right there. Okay, and I put the X because I'm using the tracing paper more than once. And now I have to plot these, okay? So again, my arm's getting a little tired here, so I'm going to plot these on here. I'm going to use a different color so that I remember this is the new one. I am going over on the x-axis to -6. So -6. And I went down -3. So this vertex is -6, -3. The new one here, I'm going across -10 and down to 3. So -10, -10, -3. And then this one, I am going across to the same, same here. We're going to -6 again. So -6, but I'm going down farther. So I'm going down to -9. So -6, -9. I think that's correct. And then the last one will be, again, we're going across -10. It'll be the same as the point above it because we're doing a rectangle. -10, and it should be the same as this one because it matches up on the same line. It should be -9. Okay, so those are my vertexes. Now I'm going to go here, and I could have cheated and done it, that little mark again, but my arm is getting sore. -6 and -3 down here. I'm going to draw that, and on my paper that was vertex D, so I'm already going to put the letter there, and to save time I'm going to put the coordinates as well. Okay, so I'll go across to the next one. It was -10, -3, -10, and down to 3. Again, those should be on the same line. That was the letter B, so I'm going to label it B, and it was -10, -3. I'll go down to C. C was at -6, -9, across to -6, but down to -9, and that was C, -6, -9, and my last coordinate was A, and it was at -10 and -9. Over, remember we always go across the x-axis first, -10, down to -9, and again, it should be, they should match up. Those should be on the same line, and these should be on the same line. So should those, and so should those, because I'm doing a rectangle. Okay, so now I am going to match my points. Oh, my ruler fell in here. And I'm going to match these up and draw my rectangle. And again, I was trying to do these because it's hard to do this virtually, guys. Okay, we're all learning virtually because of the pandemic. We're all on a computer. It's hard to use tracing paper on a computer. It's hard for me to watch you do it on a computer. And, I'm trying to make this video to help you a bit. I noticed that I didn't mark this A coordinate. So I'm going to go back to my tracing paper because I put it on there. And A was at -10, -9. Okay, I don't want to lose marks for not having all my vertexes labeled with the coordinates. So now I have, and I'm not going to, on this case, label it prime. It would be triple prime, but we didn't use the actual figure this time. So we're just going to leave it as that. On your paper, I just wrote on it 90-degree clockwise. Okay, so that we knew that we went from the star to this one. Okay, and I think that that is it. That we did this in, we did all three. We started at the figure. We went over to this one. We rotated the figure 190 degrees, clockwise about the center of origin. Then we went back to the figure and we rotated it 180 degrees counterclockwise about the center of origin. Center of origin's here. And for the last one, we had a new concept, a turning point, and we plotted it at -3, -3. Usually when you have a question like that, it will tell you where to mark the turning point. So I made one up at -3 and -3. That becomes your new turning point. You draw the same lines. You always draw the line on your paper, and then you draw that line on your tracing paper, and it will help you to form either a straight angle or a 90-degree angle. Okay, and this will really get easier once we practice. I hope this video helped you understand it a little bit better. And if not, maybe rewatch it, try to do these problems all over again until you see that your sheet looks very similar to this one. And again, don't get discouraged. It's a difficult concept. It's a new concept for grade 6. Be patient and just practice and ask for help if you need it.